summary, and also occasionally some other additional information that's the behind-the-scenes information that sometimes doesn't come out at the City Council meetings. And so we hope to bring you a little more detail on some of these discussion items. Now, the film footage that we're going to be showing for this program is actually coming from a recent City Council meeting of August 10th, 2009. And this meeting, of course, we had a lot of different meaty topics on the program, on the agenda. And so with this program, we're going to be talking about two of those. One of the issues is something that has come up at a number of different council meetings under different scenarios over the last several years, and that, of course, is the whole discussion having to do with the retaining wall at the Markham Pond and exactly what is being done with that. Well, some time ago, of course, the City Council, actually back in 2005, I believe it was, this was before I was elected mayor, had brought before it some information from the city staff indicating that there was the opinion that the city of Maplewood was responsible for repairing a retaining wall of the Markham Pond as a result of some legal litigation that had been engaged in by the city with the property owner a decade before. Now, of course, the council at that time in 2005, and that council, of course, the mayor was Bob Cardinal, and on the council was also Marv Copen and Will Rosbach and Kathy Juneman. And at that time, the council never asked for verification from the court records to indicate that the city actually had any obligation to the repair or maintenance of this retaining wall on private property. The council in 2005 didn't ask the kind of questions that have typically been asked by council in the last few years of staff, of asking for more substantiation of claims, of looking at the real data, of actually looking at the verifiable information. And so in 2005, the staff report simply just said that somebody asserted that the city was responsible, and the staff just said, well, they agreed. Whereas in reality, once that issue came before us later on, after I became mayor, it came out that actually there was no legal documentation out of that court case that was cited that actually said that Maplewood was responsible at all for the maintenance and repair of this retaining wall on private property. Now, in 2005, though, the council, without asking for any further information and not doing any further investigation themselves, they did take a vote on a motion to say that the city would indeed take on this responsibility of maintaining and repairing this retaining wall of Markham Pond that was on private property. And they did indeed pass that resolution. I believe the vote was 5-all, and that every single one of them said, sure, we'll take on that responsibility, the city will do it. And they didn't actually then enact how they were going to do it, and this got passed along. And it's my recollection, as I mentioned, that this vote was taken in 2005, although it could have been earlier than that, but I do know it was during the time that Bob Cardinal was the mayor, and that Marv Copen was also on the council. So with that said, then the plan on how to make good on their resolution was actually never brought forward and was actually passed along to the next council, which of course was my council. And my council actually wrestled with this issue when it was brought before us early on in my term, and we started asking the hard questions. Where is the documentation that says that this is a city obligation? Where in the court file or in the court's order does it say that this was indeed a judgment against the city. And it came out that actually there wasn't any documentation such as that there really was just a couple of attorneys' letters back and forth talking about what certain people may or may not have said off the record and not part of necessarily any kind of documentation that is recognized as a judgment against the city. But the council then decided that we were not going to be paying for that retaining wall, and at the time we either tabled it or we voted it down, one or the other. Later on, then after, in 2008, I believe it was, this issue then came back before the council. Again, once then we had a different makeup of the council. The issue came back again for review by the council again. At that time, then we had a different makeup of the council. It then swung the other way around, saying, well, because the council previously, under Bob Cardinal, had made the resolution that it was indeed a city obligation that we had, and that they passed that we indeed had to honor that. And the question then came up, well, even if they had voted on it and passed this and had taken on this obligation, can they do that when there is no public purpose with regard to this maintenance and repair of a retaining wall on private property? Well, then there was a council meeting whereby there was a lot of discussion and reports and staff presentations on the public purpose involved in maintaining and repairing this retaining wall of Markham Pond, because of the waters being public waters, that there was going to be increased public waters, perhaps as a result of the road reconstruction projects of White Bear Avenue, and that all these water, stormwater runoff actually is diverted into Markham Pond. During much of that discussion, however, there was also conflicting reports about whether or not there was actually going to be increased water going into Markham Pond or not, calling for the repair or maintenance, ongoing maintenance permanently by the city of this wall or not, since all of the stormwater was going to be treated on location as a result of this new White Bear Avenue reconstruction project, and that as a result of the new road construction techniques, that actually the stormwater is going to be treated on site where the new road reconstruction is, rather than necessarily diverted out and over to Markham Pond. So there was that conflict within the council as to whether or not there was a public purpose or not. And so as it turned out, the vote was 3-2 with regard to 3 feeling that there was a public purpose, in which case we could expend public funds to be able to repair and maintain this wall, versus the 2 who felt that there wasn't a public purpose clearly expressed. And Mr. Jelly and myself were on the side of feeling that there wasn't a public purpose clearly expressed to be able to warrant the use of taxpayer dollars, whilst the other 3, Councilmember Juniman, Nephew, and Rossbach, felt that there was. So that kind of gives you, up to this date, a little bit of history and how we got here. With that said, then we are to the point where you have to look at the retaining wall. And we are looking at letting the bids out, we put out a bid for contractors to bid on the work to repair and do the maintenance of the retaining wall. And so at our council meeting of August 10th, 2009, that was one of the items on our agenda, is that the bids had come in to the city from various different contractors, and the item on the agenda was to select and to award the bid for the contract. So with that now stated, let's take a look at some of our film footage and take a look at some of the report that we have, and then we'll be looking at council discussion. Improvement, City Project 05-18. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is before you with the bids that you authorized to receive earlier this year. The amount of the bids, if we can, there we've got it on the overheads. You can see, again, bidding market is very good. All of the bids are below the original estimate of $375 that we gave you. The engineer, looking at some of the previous prices, estimated at $332. You can see that the low bid of urban companies is significantly below that by $80,000, which is 24% below the engineer's estimate and 33% below the project budget. There's a question earlier this evening about urban companies. They are able to acquire a bond. They have done similar work. When we do projects, providing information on the viability of the contractor is something that we rely on our consultant engineer to investigate. They would not recommend that, so they checked out their qualifications. They have done similar work. They are a local company out of Vadnais Heights, but they understand the project. Our engineer is comfortable with certifying them, and they do have the financial ability to do the project and to be bonded to do the project. We do require two bonds, a performance bond and a payment bond, so they have to be bonded for double the amount of the project. So they are able to get a $500,000 bond, which means they are certainly a legitimate company. Obviously, they've never done work in Maplewood before. My understanding, they were a fairly new company, but they've been around for a few years. Given the good price, they are, as you notice, $53,000 below the second low bidder, who is again a contractor that has not worked in Maplewood previously. We believe that our consultant is comfortable with them, and therefore we are recommending an award to Urban Companies LLC in the amount of $251,913.
Okay, very good. Mr. Jelly, questions?
This company's out of Vadnais Heights, right?
Yes.
Is there any relation to this company with Jerry Urban, as city administrator in Vadnais Heights?
It is his oldest son.
His oldest son.
Yes.
He has no...
I just happen to know that because I...
Well, because he owns the building they're in. He has...
Yes.
He's named as a member of the LLC, the corporation, so...
Yes.
Just seems a little bit uncomfortable to be giving a contract to a neighboring city administrator.
Why?
He doesn't own the county.
That's a little too close to the gravy train. This SEH, which is also in Vadnais Heights.
Yes.
Did they give you any? Can they feel comfortable? Any idea why they feel comfortable?
Council.
They worked with them in the past at all? Have they ever done anything with them?
Again, they have not worked with urban companies before. However, when we go out for bids, I probably shouldn't have used the term comfortable. When we put bids together, the documents require them to meet certain requirements. They have to demonstrate that they have the ability to do the project, and two, they have to be able to bond. For us to exclude a bidder, those are typically the types of issues that we look at. Can they be bonded? That's the number one thing, because if they can't perform, we simply pull the bond and then go and get somebody else to do that. So the bonding companies typically do some of that evaluation. So the first thing we do is check with their fiscal agent. Can they be bonded for this amount? And as I said, it's double the amount. Then we look at, okay, what is their track record? This individual has been in the business for a couple of years doing landscaping projects, retaining walls. He's built mostly in private companies, so he's done work before similar to this where he's built retaining walls. So in that investigation, SEH reported to me, the project manager, that they, in their opinion, they are capable of doing this project. Will they be successful? That's certainly You know, at this point in time,